Game Over Calgary is relaunching in October. For all your Game Over Calgary content, make sure you subscribe to our Calgary-specific YouTube channel. Open the Game Over Network YouTube page in a new tab from this video, scroll past Andrew talking, and click on the Game Over Calgary channel in our featured channel section. Click subscribe and make sure you hit the drop-down menu to get notified when we post videos or go live. Tell all your Flames fan friends and family to check it out and join our awesome community. And make sure you smash the like button on this video right into oblivion.
Toronto Maple Leafs fans, I don't know about you, but my Monday just got a lot better. The Maple Leafs actually finally showing up in the playoffs, as we know that they can play. Happy Monday. Welcome to Game Over Toronto. I am so happy to have you here. If it is your first time, please make sure you hit like and subscribe. We're restarting Game Over, all of that, yada yada. We will talk about it in a little bit, as Peter just told you. We are relaunching Game Over, but we're going to talk about the game tonight. We're going to talk about the Maple Leafs finally beating Boston in the playoffs for what seems like 100 years. In fact, it's only been just over 4. But so much good to talk about. So many good things to take away. The power play was going. Matthews was going. What a breakaway goal. Samsonov gave up a goal. That game very well could have ended 3-1 in the Leafs' favor. It very well could have ended 4-1 if the Bertuzzi goal had counted. And we're going to talk all about it. So please make sure you hit like. Make sure you hit subscribe. Hit the bell so that whenever we do go live, right down here, you can be updated, and as soon as I go live, you can be here with me, because I want you here and we want you here. And I don't know about you, but I just need some water, because that game right at the end, just with how the end of the first period went, it really felt like the Leafs could have lost it, but they didn't. They held on and they finally tied the series up 1-1, going home. I mean, you can't really wish for more than splitting the series, the home part of Boston, the first 2 games. Getting one in TD Gardens is hard enough, and we have one. We need 15 more, but tonight, Monday, April 22nd, 2024, the Leafs finally have their first playoff win of the season, with the Stars showing up, thankfully. The top 2 lines, right? I mean, a couple things are still the same from last game. Bobby McMahon's still out. William Nylander also still out. And Samsonov back in net, Allmark back in net for Boston. So they're still going with the jib-jab back and forth of him and Swayman. It was a really good hockey game. It was so much better to watch tonight's game than Saturday's, just in terms of watchability. It was such a better game. Both teams actually showed up, as opposed to one being so drastically outplayed by the other. Samsonov made the first save of the goal. Thank goodness. Oh my goodness. It's a good thing, because I think if he had let in the first shot on goal again, I might have put my face through the TV. And I just bought that TV at Christmas, so I would be really upset with myself. But he makes the first save. No extracurriculars to the start. Saturday, that's what they were getting caught up on, and it was really a lot on Saturday. It was maybe too much, and they kept getting hung up on all these extracurriculars. There was a little bit of it a little further in the game, but compared to Saturday, I almost want to say like a night and day difference in terms of like the scruffiness of it, which was, I can't believe I'm going to say this, a good thing to say. Tavares was playing so hard. He was probably the best player in the first 10 minutes of the game. Bertuzzi, there was a really good opportunity where he just overpassed the puck to Matthews. He tried to pass across crease. I wish he would have shot it, but it doesn't matter. The Bruins hit a post. There was a really, really, really good zone entry drop back. And if you've watched Game Over before, you know how I feel about double drop back passes. And we'll talk about it a little bit later when we talk about the Leafs power play. But I have to give credit where credit's due. They had some zone entries tonight that literally could have made me weep if I was a Bruins fan. They were so nice. There was a McCabe penalty, right? The cross-checking with 10:08 to go. And who else but Morgan Geekie, of course, scores to put the Boston Bruins up 1-0. With just under 9 minutes to go, in the first period. Kampf, while he was the only goal scorer in the last game, he really needs to clear that, right? Like, he misses, he whiffs on it. Sammy was in a bad position, and it's basically the reason that he gets scored on. And it was not It was exactly the kind of turnover that you want to try and avoid. And it's the exact kind of turnover that Boston's going to capitalize on. And there they go. They do. But they do score. But who else to drag the Leafs into a Monday night hockey game than Max Actual Domi? 14 seconds after Boston goes up 1-0. Domi steals their thunder right away, which is the best thing that you can hope for when you get scored on, right? You want your team to respond right away, which is exactly what happened. Literally the immediate shift after Boston scored, the big line got on the ice and they capitalized, and Max Domi, first of the playoffs, and he just looked so happy to score it. Austin Matthews might have looked happier when Max Domi scored than when he scored himself to put them up, but it was close. And then the Leafs get a power play. Right? Beecher goes off. Beecher giveth and Beecher taketh away. 7:31. Poppy saved by Allmark. There was a really good shot there. Passes to nowhere by Nyes in the offensive zone that lead to turnovers, which is something they didn't do so much this game. It only happened a couple of times, which was so nice to see because that's something they've really struggled with lately. But they get out of the first period tied almost, except for the last 8 seconds where Pasternak scored. Right? And of course he did, because it's David Pasternak. And that's what he does. He eats pasta and scores against the Leafs. He does it like I do breathing. Like it's just something that he does, and it's something they've come to expect. And I would have loved for them to get out of that first period with tied 1-1, but to give up that late goal, I really, for a half a second, and by half a second I mean the entire first intermission, I was completely petrified that it was going to go the way of Saturday, right? Like the first period on Saturday wasn't an actual shooting gallery. Like they weren't getting run over. They were giving up bad opportunities, but it was still a winnable game at that point. But in the second period in Saturday's game is where it just completely got out of hand and they weren't able to control themselves. But tonight, the second period, it was like they were a different team. Coming out of the first period, the shots were 14-10. The Bruins were very hard pushing to start. McCabe stops that really good 2-on-1 that was coming the other way. Sammy made a great save on Beecher to keep them within one. The face-off percentage tonight was so much better. It led to a lot of better opportunities for the Leafs. They were actually able to get some offensive zone time, even though the numbers on Saturday said that we should have had so much more zone time. It didn't feel like that, right? It didn't feel like we had actual good opportunities existing when that was happening on Saturday, whereas at least tonight, it felt like it was a little bit more even keeled. I think at one point the face-off percentages was within a single percent of each other, which was a positive change, right? Because on Saturday, again, the Leafs were getting run over across the ice, including in the face-off dot. The Leafs finally get another power play. Bruins took a too many men penalty with just under 8 minutes to go. The Bruins make a ridiculous save. That save by Linus Ullmark on Calle Jarnkrok that literally had Pontus Holmberg holding his hands up to his face saying, I can't believe you saved. Like he looked at a Bruin was just like, I can't believe your guy just saved that. I wish I could have screen capped it on my computer. I was watching on my TV because it would be like a great image to have right here. I'll use it for the next game. That's what I'll do. That's a great idea. And the Leafs get another power play after that because the Bruins end up killing it off. They get another power play with the Grizzly interference with 3 minutes to go. And who else but Tyler Bertuzzi almost scoring, right? I mean, it's a great play. It's coming out of the air, and it was clearly too high. Even when he scored it, I was really excited, but I immediately was like, I think that might be called back because just the way that he hit it. I mean, if he's not, shoved over a little bit, is it called the same way? It was initially called a goal on the ice, so I had hope that maybe there wouldn't be enough to turn it over, but doesn't go that way. But luckily, in that same power play, because they basically reset the clock from 1:59, Johnny Toronto, who loves to score big power play goals and big goals for Toronto in big moments, finally ties the game with 1:34 with a great play, a great read. I mean, Austin Matthews was very clearly trying to pass to the middle of the ice, but for Jarnkrok to just ever so gently deflect it by maybe 10 degrees over to Tavares, he holds it and boom, right over the pad. I mean, I scared all of the cats when I screamed. All of them ran and hid under the bed because it was just, it felt like instead of the Bruins finally getting more momentum and keeping the train going. The Leafs finally had an actual spark and an actual like flame that they could tenderly nourish and hold, and it bled into the third period. I mean, tied 2-2 after 2 in game 2 it's a lot of twos. Marner gets a shot 25 seconds in. Revo with the holding penalty against Boston, just over 3.5 minutes in, which was not a great play. But Boston at the same time gets a too many men. That's a very fortunate call. 2 minutes of 4-on-4, nothing happens. Thank goodness. Actually, the 4-on-4 combination was interesting. So they had Joel Edmondson, McCabe, Marner, and Matthews to start. And it's funny because when we actually got Joel Edmondson, more than one person texted me and was like, I look forward to seeing Joel Edmondson's offensive giveaway turn the Leafs playoffs into a shortcoming. But he actually played really well in that 4-on-4, even though they weren't able to capitalize. There were some opportunities on that power play, well, I guess the 4-on-4, where the Leafs were able to get into the zone, but they're just, I mean, one or two errant passes and it's going the other way. So I would have liked to have seen them get a little bit more established in the zone on that power play, but I mean, I'm splitting hairs on that, right? Like, I'm just trying to be nice and even keeled, but it's hard because it was a good game. Ullmark steals a really, really, really good goal from Nick Robertson with just over 12 minutes to go. That shot from Nick Robertson was so good, and it was going in if his glove is a half a centimeter lower. I mean, it was I don't know if it was a nicer shot or a nicer save. Like, credit where credit's due. That was a really nice save by Linus Ullmark. The Benoit hit on Brad Marchand, I actually giggled like a small school child because I love Team Canada players. I just can't stand anything about him. And so for me, a lifelong Leaf fan, to finally see Brad Marchand get lit up once more in the corner by Simone Benoit, it was just like chicken soup for the Leaf fan soul. And the Bruins ice it with just over 10 minutes to go. Matthews breakaway goal. Okay. Basically, Domi gets it right at the blue line. An airmail Hail Mary pass that Matthews catches with one hand, drops with the other, single-handed stick handles it all the way up to Ullmark. Bing, bang, forehand, backhand, forehand up in the net. And he was just, I mean, the Leaf fans there were all of us, right? Because if you're a Leaf fan and you were watching that moment, you probably got off your chair or your couch if you were able to stand. If not, I'm sure that you were probably screaming because it was a great moment, and it was the first time in so long that the Leafs finally had a lead over the Bruins, which seems like such a small win, right? Like, we're talking about trying to win the Stanley Cup, and meanwhile I'm here like, thank God we didn't get swept by the Bruins. But it really feels like, you know, you can only control one shift at a time, one game at a time. And for the Leafs to respond in this way and come back and play this game, even though, like, at the end of the first period, they were down 2-1. At the end of the first period in last game, they were down 1-0. And they seemed more determined today than they did on Saturday to fight back and to fight against the Bruins and to fight to win, because they just look like a different hockey team. It's like they finally, at this point, even though they weren't perfect tonight, right? There were some turnovers that were just awful and some giveaways and some bad reads and some clears that should have been that turned into goals against. But the fact of the matter is, if you win enough of those battles, the battles against the boards tonight, like, it was like the whole game was night and day difference. The face-offs were better. The board battles were better. The puck decisions, the hockey IQ decisions, the stick handling was better. The stick checks were better. The body positioning by the Leafs in a defensive manner, again, even though there was shortfalls and there was moments where they weren't perfect, it's a significant upgrade. And it's these little simple things that you just need to play simplified hockey. You don't need to overcomplicate it. On the power play, when Johnny finally gets it, right? The entry that they made into the zone, normally what happens, right? You have the two forwards go up, a defenseman goes up through the middle, Matthews and Marner tag up behind, and they all go in essentially to the zone together. Instead, they finally have some neutral zone time and defensive zone happening. Mitch Marner takes it into the offensive zone, and instead of trying to pass within, like, 12 to 15 feet of the blue line. He takes it probably 25 feet deep and gets actually almost like he's going to continue around to the goal line. And he finally is able to pass back, and it turns into this great opportunity, and there's movement, and it's because they were able to do a different entry style, and it made such a difference, right? That moment when the power play started going, it's the first time that the power play has looked like any kind of offensive threat in probably 5 games. And that's not a good thing, right? Like, we're finally into the second game of the playoffs, and now our power play doesn't look like it's dead. And again, that was only, we were 1 for 3 tonight. Whereas the Leafs are basically, their PK is sitting at like a 60%. I think it's higher than that after tonight maybe, but it's not that big of a difference over the last 5 to 6 games. And little things like that, changing what your competitors watching your game tape from this season, all season, making itty bitty little 10-foot adjustments on your entries, on your passes, being more concise and more predictable with where your teammates are going to be and places where you're not forcing people to make no-look passes. There were maybe 3 or 4 no-look passes tonight. On Saturday, there was at least 10 that didn't connect. And tonight, they make smarter decisions, and it pays off, and they end up winning 3-2. Even though there was the flurry at the end, even though Samsonov looked like he might fall over, they pull through, and they finally win 3-2, taking Game 2 in Boston. And oh my God, it was just so relieving to watch. And they, even though it ended with a scruffle, and I'm pretty sure there was a couple players on the ice, it ended without Boston striking back in the last 5 seconds and making the Leafs play all the way to the last microsecond. It was as complete a game as I could have hoped for against Boston so far in this series compared to where they were Saturday. I was fully and completely ready to have like a scream fit into this camera and to you for all of us because of how frustrating it was to watch on Saturday, because you know it and I know it. They are better than that. And so when they play like that, it just compounds the piss-offedness of the whole situation. And so for them to finally take a step back, simplify, you pull out a game against Boston in Boston, not an easy thing to do. I mean, you're 15 wins away, guys. You still got to get 3 in the series, but we're essentially back at 0. It's now a best of 5. So take from that what you can. It looked like, now that we've talked about the game a little bit, it looked like up until, essentially like 1 p.m. that William Nylander might play tonight. He didn't. He's still out. Bobby McMahon still out as well. I believe the Leafs will be back on Wednesday. Is it Wednesday or Thursday? They will be back later this week, and then I believe they will also be back on Saturday at 8 p.m. as well. I have to imagine that at least one of those 2 guys is back for Thursday, if not both of them for Thursday and Sunday. Oh my gosh, Carolina just tied it. That's exciting. Oh, there's so much good hockey right now. I don't know if you're a hockey fan like outside of the Leafs. I try to watch what I can, but it's hard on the West Coast. I watched the highlights from the Vancouver Canucks game, and like, what an electric crowd. That place, I can't believe the roof is still on that building because it was just electric. And finally, the Leafs are playing electric hockey too. Right? Like, if you watch the first game in all of these series all across the league, there was unpredictability and high scoring basically left and right across the league. And the team that looked the worst on their first game was the Leafs. Far and away, it's not even in the same galaxy of comparison. And tonight, they actually look like a team that belongs. And so you need to carry that over. You need to carry that momentum over. And you got to build off this. You get one, but again, just like Ryan Reeves said today, you got to have an Hakuna Matata. You got to let it go and move forward and try to win Game 3 at home. I mean, the Leafs, the fact of the matter is the Leafs haven't been super good at home this season, which is a little bit unnerving, right? Like they've had the best road record, I think, in team history, which is great, but their home record has not been good. Now, does that change for the playoffs? Well, I hope so. And I remember last year when the Leafs had some of those amazing games in the Square, and I was there for a couple of them, how magical it was. And they can do it. They just have to play the way they played tonight, and they can beat Boston. Boston is not a perfect team. They are not last year's Bruins, and even last year's Bruins didn't get out of the first round. The fact of the matter is, you have to play consistent. You have to play smart. And tonight they did, and tonight they get the win. So William Nylander's still out. Bobby McMahon's still out. I hope those guys are back Thursday, because that would just be splendid. Like, what a way to jack the team back up, because I really think the more time goes on, the better the Leafs are going to play in the playoffs. I don't know if that's just me trying to convince myself. It could be both. But the more time goes on, I hope they take another step forward. I mean, tonight, on Saturday, the best line was the fourth line. And tonight, they're even better, right? Even though they don't end up scoring, Ryan Reeves was a factor tonight. Connor Dewar is, like, slowly becoming, like, I don't know if he's always been that way. Maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention. When I wasn't having to stream afterwards, it was different not having to stream. But if you think about how he played since he came into the team, and how just tonight, if we just focus on tonight, and the way that he was able to go and battle and have the offensive pressure, right, where he's forechecking so hard on the Bruins, and actually, like, even though the Bruins have it in their own zone, I think the fourth line might have been they might have been the only line to actually, like, get the puck back in Boston's end with consistent success. Like, other lines did it like once or twice, but it felt like every time the fourth line was out there, they were in the offensive zone and they were getting opportunities. Even though they didn't score, Kampf had a really good shot that went off the side of the net. He also almost got the empty netter. And Connor Dewar had a close one. Ryan Reeves had a tip that went just a little bit wide, but I mean, it would have been a good goal if it had gone in, and he's already been so good in the playoffs. And I mean, he's had like a fourth round Stanley Cup, goal. Like, he has as much experience in the playoffs, going to the Stanley Cup playoffs, as anybody on the team. And so for him to be on this team, for him to be not the only one that's being physical against the Bruins, it's a great thing to see. And it just was a great game. It was a great hockey game to watch. Obviously, I'm glad my team won, but it was so much better. It was so much more entertaining, because it wasn't just one side just getting completely dummied. Wow, Leafs are the only road team to win so far. Luke, thank you so much for that. I didn't know that. I mean, it's only day 3 of the playoffs, and I don't even think every team has played yet. I'm so glad my neighbors were out when Poppy hit the back of that net. Oh my gosh, I seriously screamed my face off. My wife came around the corner. She thought that I'd hurt myself. Leafs were better for most of the game. Yeah, they definitely look like a different team. Ramelli in the second and third period semifinal looked like an NHL goaltender. Yeah, he's had a tough start to the playoffs. Hey, like, he didn't have a good game last game, and even tonight that second goal was basically because of his inability to pass the puck successfully to his own defenseman, and they end up turning it over behind the net, and then bing bang boom, it's in the back of your net, unfortunately. But the Leafs are able to fight back. And they're able to rise above and rise to the occasion with a couple dozen million dollars actually showing up on the score sheet in John Tavares and in Austin Matthews. And boy, it was just good to great. I just love watching those guys score in the playoffs. Like, I mean, that was, where did it go? I saved the tweet. I should have had this ready. I'm sorry. Was it, where did it go? No pressure. No one's watching. It doesn't matter, because Matthews hadn't scored. I wrote it down somewhere. No goals, 2 assists in the last 6 playoff games until tonight. And then finally, he gets a goal and an assist. Right? Probably Matthews' best playoff game. I mean, obviously so far this year, but for the majority of the playoffs last year. In the second round last year, wasn't very good. Tonight, he was actually the player that we have come to expect and that we have paid lots of money for, to keep him on our team and in this jersey for a long time, because he needs more moments like that. For him to have gone no goals, 2 assists in the last 6 games is just not good enough. Now, I understand that last year Florida did a very good job of isolating him, and that's all well and good, but that's what the money is for. Because at the end of the day, you have to be able to produce when it is most needed. And historically, it has not been easy goings for Matthews or Marner or any of our big guys to score. Jonas Siegel, I finally have the tweet up, thank goodness. Jonas Siegel tweeted out at 8:55, Austin Matthews threw 2 periods of game 2. 2 primary assists, 9 shot attempts, 5 hits, 69% on the faceoff dot, and 73% of expected goals. It was like night and day from how they played on Saturday. He seemed to be hungrier. He had better positioning. The top 2 lines were just buzzing. I'm surprised that they keep trying to force Marner back with Matthews. I am surprised. I'm surprised that they have done that considering the amount of success that the Domi-Bertuzzi line has had. Not necessarily in the playoffs yet, but just in terms of their chemistry, they played so well together that it's interesting that Keefe has kind of reverted back to that again. But the good thing is it seems like the mix is only happening kind of spottily. It's not like it's becoming the norm. It's definitely nice knowing that we have all these different options, but it's nice knowing that someone other than William Nylander, who's been out of the lineup for the last 2 games, is also going to score in the playoffs, because even though he's been out, it's obviously very troubling if he isn't back soon, because he's probably been the most consistent playoff performer in terms of points and points percentage and important goals and important moments. I mean, maybe second only to John Tavares, because Tavares won the whole series last year with a single goal. But if you combine the last, let's say 5 years, Nylander has been far and away the best playoff player for the Leafs. So for us to be able to win without him, I mean, it's as good as winning without Tavares like we did in the Montreal series. Now, of course, we lost that series. Of course we lost that series. But that's not necessarily what's going to happen here. Because if William Nylander comes back and they're actually able to put Matthew Knies back on a line where he's super comfortable and playing in the right position, I think we continue to build chemistry, and you come back with William Nylander, who's got nothing but energy in his legs because he hasn't played in over a week, and he's going to be melting the ice behind him because he's going to be going so fast. Because it turns out that we finally get a teensy sliver of information that it sounds like he had a slight upper body injury in game 82 against Tampa, because of course, when else are you supposed to get hurt considering you haven't in basically 2 seasons? Now it sounds like he's day to day. He was on the ice for practice this morning. He didn't participate in the line rushes. And neither did Bobby McMahon, but it sounds like they're both, on the edge of glory, so to speak. So we hope that they're both back for at least game 3, if not game 4. It's nice to know that this will at least go to game 5, but hopefully we can get it done in 6, right? Series is tied 1-1. It's all still up in the air. Anybody could win. It's the 3rd week of April. Anybody can win the Stanley Cup in the 3rd week of April. Luke Venables, obviously. Welcome, Luke. Love having you here, buddy. So happy you're here. Thank God we started getting some face-off wins. The statistics for last night's face-offs were just silliness. I thought I wrote them down, but I clearly didn't. It was something like a 65-35 slide last night in terms of face-off percentage in favor of Boston. Even the statistics after 40, the amount of cycle shots that we had, right? The amount of high pressure zone position shots that we have, in terms of puck possession, in terms of face-off percentage, the Leafs were better on every respect on the left-hand side of the column. We were significantly better, and it was measurable, than the Boston Bruins tonight, which means we're able to do it. Can we do it at least 3 more times? I guess we'll find out. We're going to have a quick ad, and then I will be right back.
Game Over Edmonton is broadcasting from the Game Over Network channel for the playoffs, but come 2024 in October, we're relaunching with our own channel. So for all of your Edmonton Oilers news, analysis, and fun, make sure you open the Game Over Network channel from this video, scroll past my ugly mug, and head on down to the Game Over Edmonton channel from our featured channels area.
So, let's talk about the issue that was maybe the most glaring it's been tonight. Well, it was an issue on Saturday too, but I digress. Let's talk about the difference between the goaltending. Just the goaltending. Let's take everything else out of it. Because Ilya Samsonov, for the majority of the fourth, fifth of the season, was very good. The last week of the season, he was very not good. And the game one of the playoffs, he was very not good. The first period tonight, he was not very good. But even though he ends up giving up the 2-0 goal at the end of the second period, or the end of the first period, sorry. Samsonov, it looked like, got better as the game went along, but there is still a significant amount of time where he is out of position, where he is turned around and facing the wrong way. I mean, that first goal, essentially, I don't even think he was in the blue paint. Like, he was so far away from the from the right post. He was basically out of the blue paint. And it was really hard to watch. If you watched how Linus Ullmark played tonight, even though he got the L, he made some spectacular saves, and he absolutely robbed at least 4 different Leafs. He robbed Calle Jarnkrok, he robbed Austin Matthews, he robbed Tyler Bertuzzi, he robbed Nick Robertson. He also made some really good saves from actual shots that were coming from our blue line, which, praise be, did not exist on Saturday, and I'm glad that even though they weren't able to score on them, the Leafs were actually taking shots from the blue line. I think that was one of the problems with Saturday, looking back, was that there was no unpredictability about where the shots were going to come from. The shots were on Saturday, they were either going to come from Matthews or nobody. That's what it felt like. And tonight it felt like Liljegren was a factor. It felt like Joel Edmondson was taking shots consistently. Even Simone Benoit had a really good shot. It felt like people were not being so gun shy about actually taking shots and hoping for a good rebound. I don't know if that's because they watched Game Time of Boston and how they were able to score their goals, but consistently tonight, the Leafs were less afraid about taking shots from far away, even if the shot wasn't super high quality, in the event that they get a good rebound. And tonight, they were able to capitalize on that, and they were able to apply pressure and make Boston uncomfortable, because Boston does a hell of a good job keeping you to the outside. But if you can get pucks on net, and you can get somebody in there, and you can get them in the goaltender's eyes, any goaltender is beatable, including Vasilevsky, including Connor Hellebuyck, including Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark. But you have to create that chaos, and tonight they were able to do that way more successfully. And that's part of the reason that they won the game, is because they were more successful with playing in more chaos. And that's why teams like Florida, like Vegas, and like Boston thrive, because when change happens, they're able to quickly adjust and make the best of the opportunities that don't come from just trying to force their structure into a round hole. They're able to actually assess what's going on, make a plan, and execute it in, 3/5 of a second. And the Leafs were able to do that tonight too. They were able to be advantageous, even though the Bertuzzi goal didn't count. That is a moment that if you have your shoulder up, maybe it ends up counting. But that is a goal that should have been born out of opportunity. And if you're going to go far, you can't just bank on opportunity, but you need to be able to utilize it when it happens. Otherwise, you end up sunk and you end up not winning games because you can't create anything that's diverse other than what's on your play card. And so for them to be able to come out tonight and play the way that they did, I couldn't be happier. If I'm going to pick the person that had the best game today, I mean, I have to give it to Austin Matthews. That breakaway goal is just beautiful, and that's what we love him for, is that goal scoring ability. He's had other good opportunities. He's had other good opportunities to score so far in the series. He's had other really good defensive plays and very good pass decisions and all of that fun stuff. But tonight, he did what we pay him for, and he did what he does best. And he ends up with the game-winning goal on a Hail Mary pass from Max Domi, catching it midair, dropping it down, forehand, backhand, and back of the tweed. Oh, pièce de résistance. It was beautiful. So, I think we covered all the bases for tonight. Doesn't look like we have any questions. They are very good at getting that. My cat was sleeping on my knees and was not happy. My cat is currently having a fit on the climbing tower, which means I definitely need to end this before one of them claws my face off. So let's finish this game here. This game over here. Ha ha ha. Freudian slip. Domi had a great game. I had a great time. I hope you had a great time. Thank you for coming. Please make sure you go. I put the link for the Game Over YouTube channel in the chat. I just reposted it. Oh, Luke, who comes out? That's a great question. Let's do one question before we go. So, who comes out? I don't know. It depends who comes back. If William Nylander comes back, maybe you try sitting someone. I don't know. I don't want to say take Matthew Nyes out because I don't think that's the smart decision. Maybe Ryan Reeves. Or you give Calle Yarncroke a day off because he just came back, right? I wouldn't be against that. I mean, we just got him back and he's played very good. In fairness, he's played very good. But I would probably take Calle Yarncroke out. He just had that hand injury. He's played 2 games already. If you take him out, then you basically supplant William Nylander for where Calle Yarncroke is in the third line, and then you have so much more offensive threat. And then I think you can maybe swap out Nick Robertson? Maybe Nick Robertson? I guess we'll find out. Luckily, that's not my job to determine. I would take out Calle Yarncroke, give him a day off, get William Nylander back, adjust as you have to from there. And then if Bobby McMahon comes out, maybe you shuffle Nick Robertson out because you know when he comes back, he's going to score a goal because that's what he does. Using my kidneys. You see that? If you pull Robertson, it means he's going to score, which means maybe you put him back in for game 6 and 7. That's my big galaxy brain moment. So let's finish up here. Make sure you do follow the Toronto Game Over YouTube channel. Next season, we're going to be having our own channel, so you're not going to have to worry about awful teams like Montreal or the Flames. Whoa. Subscribe to Game Over Toronto. It's down in the chat. Make sure you hit like. Make sure you hit subscribe. I will be back for Game Over on after Game 3 later this week. I can't wait to see you. Thank you for joining me. Have a great night. Leafs win. Take Game 2 in Boston, 3-2. Austin Matthews, savior of the game. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.